When I married Daniel, I thought I had found the man who would be both my partner and my best friend. He was dependable, the kind of man who always paid the bills on time, who fixed the leaky faucet without being asked twice, and who stood by me in the quiet, unshakable way that seemed like strength. In the beginning, I convinced myself that his silence was part of his charm. He wasn't the kind of man who would sweep me off my feet with poetry or surprise me with candlelit dinners, but he was steady, and at the time, that felt like enough. As the years passed, however, the silence began to feel heavier. The dinners we shared together turned into meals eaten in front of the television with barely a word between us. The walks I had imagined we'd take on cool evenings never happened because he preferred to unwind by scrolling endlessly on his phone or immersing himself in work emails. I didn't expect grand gestures. All I wanted was a little connection, a little effort, a little proof that I mattered to him not only as a wife who kept the house in order but as a woman who wanted to be seen, cherished, and loved out loud. 5 years slipped by in a blur of routines, responsibilities, and unspoken frustrations. I learned how to smile when neighbors asked how married life was treating me. I told them, good, everything's good, even when my heart felt like it was quietly sinking. I learned to keep myself busy with work, with hobbies, with anything that could fill the silence Daniel left between us. But late at night, lying in bed next to a man who was more like a stranger than a partner, I felt the ache of loneliness pressing in on me. It was during this time that our new neighbor, Michael, moved in next door. He was in his mid-30s, a little older than me, with an easy smile and a way of carrying himself that made people feel comfortable around him. He lived with his mother, who had recently been widowed, and it was clear from the beginning that he cared deeply for her. That tenderness alone caught my attention because it was the kind of softness I hadn't seen in a long time. The first time we spoke, it was over something simple. I was in the yard, struggling to balance 3 grocery bags while trying to unlock the front door. Daniel was inside, working late as usual. Michael appeared at the fence and called out, "Need a hand with that?" Before I could protest, he had crossed over and lifted the heaviest bag with a smile. "Looks like you're trying to carry the whole store home," he joked, and I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. From then on, our paths crossed often. Sometimes it was a wave in the morning as he left for work, other times it was small talk when I was watering the plants. He noticed things. If I had a new book in my hand, he asked about it. If I looked tired, he said, "Long day." He paid attention in a way that was disarmingly simple yet profoundly rare in my life. One evening, it started to rain unexpectedly. Daniel was in the living room, eyes glued to his laptop, barely acknowledging my presence. I stepped out onto the balcony, feeling the cool droplets hit my skin as I leaned on the railing, breathing in the scent of wet earth. That's when I heard Michael's voice from his balcony next door. "You love the rain, don't you?" I froze for a moment, surprised. How did he know? No one had ever noticed that about me, not even Daniel. I turned and smiled, a little shy. "I do," I admitted. "It makes me feel alive, I guess." Michael nodded, leaning against his own railing. "Me too. It's like the world slows down for a while. Everything feels clearer." That small exchange lingered with me long after I went inside. It wasn't just about the rain. It was about being seen. About someone recognizing something small but meaningful about me. Over time, our conversations grew. Never inappropriate, never crossing lines, but filled with warmth and sincerity. He told me about his mother and how much he worried about her adjusting after his father's passing. I told him about the garden I was trying to keep alive and how my tomatoes never seemed to grow right. He laughed and promised to bring me some tips since his mother had a green thumb. And slowly, I began to feel a kind of companionship I had been starving for. Not romance, not attraction, companionship. A reminder that I was more than just a shadow in my own marriage. The more I spoke to Michael, the more painfully aware I became of what was missing at home. Daniel wasn't cruel. He wasn't unfaithful. He wasn't abusive. He was simply absent in the ways that mattered most to me. And that absence had grown into a chasm I could no longer ignore. One night, after a particularly hollow dinner where Daniel barely looked up from his phone, I excused myself and went upstairs. I sat on the edge of the bed, tears spilling down my face before I even realized I was crying. It wasn't about Michael. It wasn't about the rain or the small kindnesses from my neighbor. It was about me. About the woman I had become, quiet, invisible, and tired of waiting for scraps of affection that never came. The next evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I asked Daniel if we could talk. He looked at me with mild surprise but nodded. For a moment, I almost lost my nerve. But then the words poured out of me. I feel alone, Daniel. I feel like I'm living beside you, not with you. I need you to see me, to talk to me, to share something more than just silence and bills. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when I feel like I don't even know you anymore. Daniel put down his phone, and for once, he didn't brush me off. He listened. Really listened. I told him about the loneliness, about the way I felt invisible, about how badly I wanted to feel connected again. I didn't mention Michael by name because it wasn't about him, it was about us. Daniel's face softened, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something in his eyes that looked like regret. I didn't realize, he whispered. I thought being here, providing, was enough. I didn't know you felt this way. It wasn't an instant fix. But it was the start. The beginning of tearing down the walls we had built between us. Daniel suggested we take walks after dinner. He started putting his phone away at the table. We talked more, laughed a little, and slowly, I felt a spark of the connection I had been missing. Michael, without ever knowing it, had given me the courage to demand more from my marriage. He had reminded me what it felt like to be seen, and in doing so, he helped me find my voice again. Sometimes, the people who enter our lives aren't meant to stay forever. Sometimes, they're there to hold up a mirror and show us what we've been missing, to remind us of the love we deserve, and to nudge us toward the changes we've been too afraid to make. Please like and subscribe my channel for more romantic videos.